Did you ever have skill on the basketball court, or was that, or were you the only person out there with skill when you were playing?
I had some skill. I'm only 5'7", so I don't have the size. Some had skill, maybe. Depends on the level. I don't know.
I'm sure you did. Like, at this point, everybody has heard of Anthony Edwards' comments on the Wall Street Journal. Probably a very relaxed conversation. And, of course, basking in the glow of pretty much his glow up this year. This is the year where pretty much he took Ja Morant's place as, like, America's next hero for USA basketball, pretty much. And you saw how he played in the Olympics. He played behind Devin Booker, but he had some great moments out there. Him and Kevin Durant were like their own reality show. And he talked about NBA of a previous era. He started off by saying, Isis, I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. That's where he should have stopped. But he continues. They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one who really had skill. You know what I mean? So that's why when they saw Kobe, they were like, oh my God, but now everybody has skill, unquote. Before we go to Magic Johnson's very pointed reaction, Ice, you tell me what you think, because I got thoughts.
If you don't know and you haven't watched it, how do you speak on it? Like, he was so correct in that statement. I was so proud of him for the first sentence. That was very mature. And then he showed his age. And he's young, right? He's young. But I feel like we have this conversation in the WNBA all the time about people honoring the legends that came before them and like what paved the way. And I feel like you can't be a player in the NBA and only say that Michael Jordan was the only skillful person at the time. Like, we are talking about those who literally paved the way in the NBA. You're overlooking Isaiah Thomas, a John Stockton, a Bill Walton. I mean, there are so many names that we can go through of players where it's like, no, not just their size and their ability. I feel like the game of basketball at the highest level, the great players always have a high level of skill. And so I just thought it was just, to be quite honest, a dumb statement to make. Like, there's no way that you were talking about the game of basketball and talking about those who have come before us and some of the best top 50 players that have ever played in this league, and you say that only one had some skill before Kobe? Like, come on. I love Ant-Man, and I can't help him here.
Yeah. I think it's far more nuanced of a conversation. For one, I think Ant was being hyperbolic, as a 22, 23-year-old is prone to do. Like there would be some grace given there. Part of it is there in the NBA, Ice, it just seems like in this sport more than any other, basketball as a whole, there is a basketball culture war where it feels like the older generation feels like they are not properly given their flowers for all the things that the new generation is doing. So it's spun under the guise of skill, right? Guys can dribble and shoot and do all these different things. You can shoot from distance a lot further than previous eras. Absolutely. And you can do more things. You can do the James Harden step back and all that other type of stuff. Absolutely. I think what gets lost in this is two things. For one from the old people's standpoint, say older people, but one from the previous generation's standpoint, Ice, I think they look at the money that's being made and they're like, man, this is astronomical money. Like guys signing on a rookie deal, on a rookie extension, 5 years, $250 million, haven't even made an all-star team. We would never have dreamed of making that level of money. It's astronomical. So it's not really hating. It's just, man, that's a lot of money, which on its face, absolutely, a lot of money. Ain't really no hating there. It's just the simple fact of it, right? And not being able to have received all that you have put in to the league in that way.
I feel you. That's how that's how I feel being left out of the NIL right now. Like, dang, if I decided to go play college basketball 5 years later, I'd have had a bag, but I'm left with nothing. But I identify.
A big bag.
A big bag.
Yeah. So I think that's a natural feeling. I don't think that's necessarily hating the way that everybody says it. But the second point, and I think this one is the most important one, we equate, or the conversation that says, we equate skill to equaling better. And I don't know if skill means that you're a better basketball player. Like there are players who have said, man, he's got a lot of skills. He can do a lot of things, but can't play worth a lick.
Right.
Like can't execute time and score. Can't figure out how to integrate himself into a team environment in that way. Like one guy that I think of, and it's not a shot on him. I don't want people to think this. But when I think of the way that Jason Tatum plays compared to maybe the way that Devin Booker played in the Olympic Games, right? Well, Book turned into catch and shoot guy. I know I don't have time to dribble and play pat, pat, pat with the ball 3 or 4 or 5 times, to get to my step back. I have to play off of these other guys and do that. Whereas Tatum, although he didn't get the minutes, we know Tatum's game is, I'm not the catch and shoot guy. I'm the guy that wants to play with it. I'm going to give you a spin move. I'm going to give you a step back and all those type of things. And I think that's where the argument comes, is where you see players today doing more with Ice. And I'll preface it and turn this to you because you play basketball at the highest level. The freedom that guys have today, the freedom that players of both sides of the spectrum have, from the coaches, from the officials, was not the freedom that was given in previous generations. Your coaches would yank you. Yeah. The referees would call you for a carry. So guys could do those things back then, but it wasn't encouraged. And it was downright, looked down upon back then. Whereas guys today, with the individual trainers and all the Instagram videos and all that type of stuff, it just looks better. But 2 points is 2 points.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like maybe one area when I saw this too, and he's like, talking about skills specifically, I actually thought about like technology, like the analytics of the game, like the way in which we watch film now and go back and break down different things. Or I can go on Synergy and see who's the best pick and roll pull-up jump shooter in the league off of percentage in 2 seconds. Like, I think the skill and the game has evolved, and it's evolved because we know more, we can do more. Like you said, there's more freedom, rules have changed, right? And so I just feel like Ant, his statement, like wasn't acknowledging, the evolution of the game. Obviously, there's more skill now, right? Obviously, everyone plays a different way because the game of basketball has literally changed. We're seeing now sometimes the most skillful player on the court is the 5 player rather than the point guard, right? Like that's a huge drastic change from when we were talking about 20 years ago. So I completely agree with you. And I just think, I don't know, I just think you have to acknowledge generations and the generational gap and differences. And that's becoming the issue that you talked about and hinted at, is like the older generation feels away, the younger generation feels away. But everybody needs to acknowledge that, like, as time has happened, evolution has happened, the game has gotten to a new level. Therefore, obviously, skill is going to be different. Obviously, money is going to be different, and it should be. But I don't think it's fair to say, hey, skill didn't exist then. I still think there are some players in the NBA who rely on their size and athleticism more than their skill, right? And so it still goes vice versa.
Absolutely. And there's elements of the game that I will consider to be more efficient today than, of course, it's more efficient play today because, like you said, the influx of information, the embracing of analytics and saying, okay, well, why would you take a 19-footer when you can take a 22-footer?
Right.
The problem with that to me, Ice, is, and this goes hand in hand with the freedom thing, there's more freedom than ever, but it feels like there's less spontaneity, less creativity. It seems like everything is, let me get to my step back. Let me get to this spot on the floor to get to where I need to get to. And I don't know about you, Ice. I never played the game when I played, whenever I play, like period, like pickup or whatever. I never played with the thought of becoming like a basketball robot. I don't watch the game to see like a basketball robot. I watch the game to see, oh my God, what am I going to see next that I'm not expecting to see? And I think you turn players like that element of their brain off. You know what I mean? Because you're coaching, but you're not teaching. I think there's better coaching than ever. I don't know if there's greater teaching than ever. And I think that kind of goes back to what, Ant was talking about. And I'm going to go to Magic Johnson's comments because we got to touch on Irv.
Yes.
Irv is the nicest tweeter in the history of tweeting, right? Everything is great. Everything is wonderful, right? You never really hear Irv pop off and be mad. He might say, I am highly disappointed in something like that. Knowing good and hell well, Irv is really saying some other stuff under his breath, right? So Irv was talking with Stephen A. Smith at some convention or conference or something like that. And Stephen A. and Irv are tight. So he knew where he was walking Magic down. And he asked Magic about it, and Magic said, hey, basically in short, what has Ant ever won? I'm not responding to a guy that's never won a championship. Has he even won in high school? I know he ain't win in college. And for those who don't know, Magic won in high school. Magic won in college. Magic won 5 NBA championships. Magic got a gold medal. If anybody can talk, it's Irv. The 6'9" point guard, right? Who could play center. The 6'9" point guard who for his first few years in the league played shooting guard. Go look it up. Norm Nixon. Like all those things come into it. Isaiah Thomas had said some things. And of course, people view Isaiah through the lens of Michael, and everything is being viewed as, oh, he's hating or whatever.
Yeah.
But his general point was there were great athletes back then. The way that we characterize great athletes back then, like Ice, the benefit of the hand check. Do you think people understand like how powerful the hand check is when you can put your hand on someone's hip or their waist and steer them not towards where you want them to go, but you can steer them away from what they're trying to do? The power of such a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, legitimately. Like, I don't know. It's hard sometimes for me. Like, been playing the game since I was 4, like been playing at a high level. So sometimes it's hard to take a step back and see what others don't see, right? Because when you're in it, you understand how important these things are. You understand the nuances. You understand the respect level that comes from, seeing someone that's won everything, being able to talk, and those that can't. I think in this new generation, everybody thinks they have a voice. Everyone thinks that they can talk and say something. Everyone thinks that they're entitled to whatever. And I just love how the old generation continues to remind us, yo, sit down and win something first before you open your mouth. Like, you need to have a couple checks on your back before you come and talk to me. And say something that we should validate too, right? Like, because then also with all these voices are saying things. We talk about it and we talk about the same things. Now we're validating what they're saying. And we're validating what people are saying that haven't shown us the proof is in the pudding and know what they're saying. We're validating someone. I mean, hey, that's a young player, won his first gold medal, but kind of had the older players win a form. I don't know. I think it's too many voices right now speaking on things that they don't know. But I love that Magic just checked his credibility. Like, I don't respond to a guy's never won a championship. That's a fact. That's a mic drop.
And here's the thing. As someone with a microphone and a very nice camera setup and everything else, we got too many damn podcasts. We got Gilbert Arenas with one, and he's saying, well, like, Gilbert is entertaining. I don't know if Gilbert believes half the shit that he says as much as he is literally just saying things to get a rise out of people. Remember that thing in Watch the Throne, the Otis song? It gets the people going. Not Otis, not Otis. It's the song with the name that we can't say, but they are in Paris. Whoever they are, they're in Paris, right? And there's that little spot that says, what does that even mean? I don't know. It gets the people going. That's what I feel like most people are saying. I think Ant was speaking from a position of ignorant authenticity, right? He only knows what he knows. I don't expect a 22-year-old to have a full grasp on the league's history. I just don't. I don't go to him. I don't look at Anthony Edwards going into year 4 or 5 of his career and expect him to go far back beyond Kobe Bryant. Like, Anthony Edwards was born in 2001. Like, so even even the best of Kobe Bryant, you could argue
he missed.
Anthony Edwards did not see.
Yeah.
Let alone Michael Jordan, let alone all these other guys. Now, I do think it is incumbent upon him at this point to say, hey, maybe I should learn a little bit more about things I didn't see, about things that go beyond the basketball reference page or beyond what people are saying. But I think us criticizing a 23, 22-year-old for not knowing what he doesn't know, I think that's us just punching down, right? Some of these other dudes that's out here running their mouth and they know better. Oh, no, I'm coming for you. Because Ice, I ain't that old, and I go in the crates. Like, I got records and I got records behind me. I listen to music that came out before I was born, like all that type of stuff. I have interest in it so that therefore I can speak on it intelligently. I don't have a problem with Ant saying, hey, I didn't watch it back in the day, so I don't see it. But the thing is, there has to be somebody there to teach him and say, Ant, here were the practical rules of the game. Here were like the unwritten rules. Like, the unwritten rules, guards don't come down here and grab rebounds away from big men. Y'all stay y'all asses out there and you get your outlet passes, because big men got paid for rebounding specifically back then. Now it's, let the guard get it off the glass and start the fast break. Or you got your big man at 4s and 5s shooting from 20 feet out. So there's far more space to go get rebounds in the paint now, where the paint isn't as clogged back then. They might not have been, quote unquote, skilled, but guess what? They could knock you flat on your ass. And it took a real man to go down there back then. It took a real man to go down there and to go down there and take a hit, and to go to the line and to get back up and to make sure that he drove his ass right back down there the next chance he got, because you couldn't be no punk. Right. So there's unwritten rules of the game. There's ways that the game was played. There's games that the ways that the game was taught that I feel like need to be expressed to the younger generation, because if all they see is open lanes and I'm driving down the lane and I'm dunking on everybody, and I did that to Patrick Ewing back then, you might have caught Pat. But Pat might have also used 7 foot and 285 pounds to put you on your ass. And last I checked, Ice, 7 foot, 285. That's like Visa. Is everywhere you don't want to be.
I'm dead. I will say, though, on the other side, I just want young players to have an automatic respect. You're playing for a league in which you should know the history, right? Like, this isn't a league in which you don't know the...
Yeah, you cringed when I said, when I tried to give Ant some grace. You cringed a little bit.
Because I'm just like, we're talking about the NBA. We're talking about the greatest players to ever pick up a basketball, and we know who they are. It's been around for 75 years. So to me, it's like, as you're growing and you're a kid and you're studying, you're looking at games and you decide that you want to play basketball at a high level, you're doing the research in the league that you would like to play in to know. You have to come in with a respect factor. You have to come in with understanding. So yes, is it probably on somebody to maybe explain to him some of the nuances of history and what has happened? Yes. But it's also on him in his 4th or 5th season in the league to be knowledgeable and respect those that have come before you. Like, period, plain, simple. And not just be like, Michael Jordan, only one with skill. Like, I understand we're not taking that from a literal standpoint, but still, though, you have to have a respect. Where do you think you got the step back from? Where do you think the hesitation derived from, right? Like, you didn't just get that out of thin air. These things were built. People built on and added to the game. And then it is now the game that you play, that you enjoy so much. So I get it, but I also feel like win something and come with a respect level that's fair. I actually think that's very fair. But I don't know. I respect my elders. I respect the game. That's how I was raised.
Look, I think we are both saying some of the same things. And I can remember, playing, like, growing up, playing against older dudes. You get knocked on your ass and they tell you, don't come back down here. And at that point, you decide to become a jump shooter.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, at that point, and I think it was Trevon Edwards, my boy Trey, who said this on Twitter the other day, and it is like the story of my life at this point. He said, if you're past the age of 35, why are you driving to the basket? That's a great question. I'm going to play three-point line out here, baby.
We're not taking hits.
Nothing to... What I got to prove?
Can't take those hits.
Ice, what do we have to prove out here? We got nothing to prove at this stage of our lives.
Well, I'm under 35, so I still have something to prove. I still go in there willing to get hit, but...
Ice, I'm going to let you know this now. All right? Let you know this right now. You have now entered the space of where your face is a moneymaker. Catching an elbow to the grill, having to get a couple teeth replaced and all that other type of stuff. That's a difficult conversation to have with your bosses who's trying to pay you. Ice, what happened to your face? Well, see, what had happened was I was out there trying to prove that I was still 21 going down the lane, and I got knocked.
Trying to be a big guard. You're right. Let me stay on the three-point line. You're right.
What you got to prove?
This is true.
Take the layups when you can get them. But when the freeway is crowded, you take the scenic route. It's okay to take the service drive. It's all good. That's what we're doing. See, I gave Ant a little bit of empathy, right? Like, let me say this. There are arguments that you can make against the quality of basketball because of the age of expansion. The league went from 24 teams to 30 teams between 1988 and 1995. And although there was an influx of talent, that came in internationally, when you grow that large of a percentage, the quality of play will lessen to some degree because you're letting players in who aren't necessarily at the same level of the players who had to actually scrap to actually get on the floor. Like, I totally get that. So therefore the game becomes a little uglier. And then when the rules changed, when David Stern changed the rules in 2004 to spread things out, the Pistons and Spurs, that was like the finals where the games were 74-69. Like, it wasn't a pretty game of basketball. Then Steve Nash, in the midst of that, starts winning 2 MVPs with 7 seconds or less. And you got the Sacramento Kings and all those other teams that are happening all in the middle of this seismic shift. Yes, there's going to be more of an emphasis on skill, especially with the Euros. Now you see European teams being a little tougher than the American teams now. So there is an argument in some ways, but you cannot summarily and wholly dismiss, like you said, Ice, the generations past, or just say, man, we just so much better than them. Because you're actually not that much better than them. If you're better than them at all. Because I ain't seen nobody better at the point guard position better than Magic. I ain't seen nobody play basketball better, period, than Michael Jordan. I ain't seen a more dominant big man than Shaquille O'Neal in his prime. And then we can go up and down the line and everything else. So the argument for evolution is there and skill. But basketball is more than the game of running and jumping. You got to actually think the game and play the game. And that's why I just wanted to give you young guys and gals just a little bit of history lesson. And I appreciate Ice for giving me some runway there.